There we go. We are live over on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Guys, thank you so much for being here. My name, of course, is Seth, and joining me, the guy to the other side of the screen, is Harry Austin at Ramacall over on Twitter and Reddit. He joined us a couple weeks ago when we previewed San Antonio, and it's gonna be an interesting show. It'll be a little crossover show. We're gonna talk some Mountain Division tonight, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Jacob's not gonna be here. Earl may or may not hop in, so we've got a lot to get to. Both pretty much. The entire Mountain Division was in action last night. I know Colorado plays, I think, tomorrow night. So we've got a lot to talk about. I know that last night San Antonio had a thriller of a match. And
it depends on how you identify thriller.
Yeah, that is true. It's always from a certain point of view, right? It's all about how you view things.
First half, it was awesome. Second half, I was like, oh my God, we're going to give this away. And we did almost.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. We'll go and do our intro, and then we'll hop right into our show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Somos Mas, the official podcast of Somos Mas NM, and your source for latest news and notes on New Mexico United. My name, of course, is Seth Bidoff. Joining me tonight, special guest Harry Austin at Ramacall over on Twitter and Reddit. Harry, thank you for joining. We were kind of tweeting or DMing back and forth yesterday, and you offered to come on the show. And there's a lot of action going on in the Mountain Division last night, and so I'll actually open this one up to you to start off. Where do you want to start tonight? You want to start with San Antonio, or want to start with us?
New Mexico. So we'll start with New Mexico's performance. Interested to hear your thoughts on a 2-2 draw. So
yeah, that was an interesting performance, to say the least. New Mexico United, of course, did pick up a 2-2 draw to Hartford Athletic, our next to last out of division opponent for this season. Going into it, this was a match we all thought we were going to win.
You guys predicted 2-1, 3-1, something along those lines, yes.
Yeah, I think Jacob had 3-1, 4-0, something like that. I had 3-1. And obviously, I think that's a fair – I thought that was pretty fair given the form of Hartford, especially over the past 2 months. They'd won 8 of 10 – I'm sorry, they had lost 8 of 10 coming in. And they had not been playing well. And I feel like we came out of the gate playing really well. We had a lot of energy. We looked good early on. We got the goal. I mean, that was an interesting goal, to say the least. And from my vantage point up in the press box, initially it didn't look like it went in. And then the referee signaled goal, and of course, and I saw a replay later, and I didn't realize this. We actually had a mobile camera on the outfield side of the grass, and so they ran down, and from that angle, it did look like it went over the line. And so, what an interesting shot, to say the least, an interesting take right there, and. Kind of fortunate that United got the call. I think if it had gone the other way, I don't think you could have argued with it. And for the most part, I feel like we played well in that first half. And then we were unfortunate to get the handball call. Obviously, Austin's arm was in an unnatural position.
And that changed the game.
Yeah, it absolutely did. You can't blame Austin for anything. He didn't blatantly stick out his arm. He wasn't trying to bat it down. If you watch the replay, he went in, he went up in the air to try to defend the free kick that came in. And as he's coming down, his arm went up and the ball headed off of his arm, and referee correctly awarded a penalty. No card was shown, which I think was correct. It wasn't deliberate. He wasn't attempting to handle the ball, but arm obviously
unlucky play. It was unlucky. That's what it is.
And then on the take, Alex went the right way. Just didn't get to it. And so, Hartford leveled it up right there, stoppage time. And I think that, like you said, that's where it changed. Like it really did. And I won't say that we switched off or anything at that point. Like what we typically see from United. Mm-hmm. But I will say after the break, we were definitely switched off.
At the start of the half.
At the start of the half, yeah.
Yeah.
And
you did the San Antonio where you came out a little bit flat for about 5-10 minutes and unfortunately paid for it.
Yeah, and that's been one of the problems we've had all season long. Well, really in our entire history. There's always that period of time and it typically either happens at the beginning of the first half or the beginning of the second half. And Troy even talked about it in the presser last night. And it's just unfortunate, we gave up a bad foul in a dangerous position there at the start of the second half. Hartford, of course, converted. I thought it was a pretty good take, good, really great header, really well placed. I don't think we necessarily did anything wrong as far as coverage there. It was just a really well placed kick, and I think we responded well, which is something we don't do often. We don't play well from behind, and to pick up the goal at the other end, I thought was great. I thought when I first watched it live, I didn't realize that ball had taken a deflection off of Austin's kick, but it took a deflection and just happened to dip to where only Dev could get to it. And so it was really tough to watch, especially from the perspective of this is a team we should beat. We should have walked away with 3 points last night, but we didn't, and that's unfortunate.
I will say Hartford has underperformed this year. Like, they peaked early, and they've struggled down the stretch. So I think they're a decent team, but they've just, unfortunately, they just don't have that consistency. And as we've seen in this league, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Outside of maybe Phoenix and Tampa and Louisville, and even Phoenix lost 3-0 to Galaxy last week or a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
So it's the thing that strikes me is New Mexico is in I don't want to say a must win, but you're close to must wins, and you needed this game. Out of division, you got, if New Mexico doesn't make the playoffs, it's going to be because of their record out of division. It's as plain as that.
Yeah, you and I were just talking about that, before we came on air, and you're absolutely right. We have underperformed out of division. I will say that we've had some of the more interesting matchups, I think, going up against Lou City, Charleston, both of whom are contenders, almost on an annual basis. Lou City, obviously one of the best teams in the league since their inception. And we've got San Diego coming up, next weekend. Another team that I think we'll be lucky if we get a point out of that. But yeah, we've underperformed, and it's hard to, it's hard to pinpoint what exactly it is. I was texting with Jacob and Earl ahead of, or during the Lou City match, and even over on the red, I was like, maybe it's that whole East Coast West Coast thing. Teams go east and they lose sleep and all that. But who knows? I mean, that's just an excuse out there. But yeah, our form has been so up and down.
The two that's going to hurt you is Tacoma and Loudoun at home. That's the Loudoun at home is the killer, and you hate going back because I believe there was a bad call in that game that went against.
Yeah, Austin,
New Mexico.
Red. Yeah.
But still, at the Lab, losing to Loudoun is to me that raised the yellow flag, for New Mexico, and that was earlier in the year. They've had time, but yeah, the out of conference schedule for New Mexico, San Diego. I thought Hartford was a playoff team. Roots have came on. Charleston's historically tough. You guys have played Rising. Lou City, as you mentioned, compared to some others like, Switchbacks have played Sporting Kansas City 2, Loudoun, Memphis, which is coming on, but when they played them, it wasn't as good. Tacoma. So that's going to be the interesting wild card in this playoff is how the interconference or outer conference actually affects the Mountain, because everybody else only has 4 matches, where the Mountain, because they're a team short, has 8 matches. So it's 24 points of everybody's season is going to be decided by somebody outside of the division compared to 12.
And don't get me wrong, I love the out of division stuff. I really hope that this continues going forward, even if we get back to the normal just Western Conference, Eastern Conference next season. I want to see
Correct.
interconference matchups. I want to see that. I think it's fantastic for the USL, and because last season we got so burnt out seeing the same teams over and over again, and even this year it's kind of frustrating. But at least they've been spaced out a little bit more, obviously with the 32 game schedule. But I would love to see New Mexico United go to Atlanta, go to Tampa, go to New York. I would love to see those matchups. I really love to see some of those clubs come out here, and I want to see that continue. And I hope the USL is watching these, because I would be willing to bet that some of these matchups that we've seen, especially I think it was like Phoenix Tampa, like I don't know. I wonder. I'm curious what the numbers were on that in terms of viewership. I would be willing to bet that was probably the highest watched USL match this year.
I know we got reports that San Antonio, New Mexico, when it was on the big ESPN channels, was over 50,000, which MLS gets around 150,000. So for USL to get over 50 to where it was recognized, I think says something. And like I said, I think Phoenix and Tampa probably would have eclipsed that. But you gotta have good matchups, on there to do that. And obviously, if and when New Mexico gets their stadium, I can, just like Colorado Springs, they had 2 or 3 matches that were on, big ESPN channels here, and it brings, it brings
I think we lost Harry for a second there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you are.
My internet flashed out, I guess.
Oh,
sorry about that.
No worries. It happens. Hang on. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. My youngest was hungry. I thought he was asleep. So, all right. So back to your point. I know you got cut off a little bit there. We were talking about the San Antonio New Mexico United match compared.
Yeah, it drew 50,000 or over 50,000. So you figure Rising in Tampa probably did, just with the markets that they're in, with the name brands that they carried, probably did more than that, I would estimate.
Yeah, I wish, again, it comes back to the whole new transparency thing. I would love to see the numbers, and I really think, again, I would love to see this go forward. Maybe get the conference champions, to play each other to open the season, kind of like the NFL has the Hall of Fame game or whatever. Get them to kick the season off. I think that would be a fantastic thing to do every year.
That would be interesting. But moving back to the Hartford match here. So, looking at the stats, I know you guys had 12 shots, 4 of them were on target. Hartford had 13 and 2 on target here. I thought New Mexico controlled the game, and I wouldn't even say they struggled putting the ball into the net, because I think they had quality shots. It just, they couldn't bring it home, for whatever reason. It just did, the ball didn't bounce their way, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that Troy has talked about as well throughout the season. You got to get a little bit lucky at times, and we had opportunities going forward, and obviously we don't have Armando Moreno because he's on international duty right now. But I felt like we had some chances, and we just didn't convert. And once we brought Christian Nava on, I think that kind of re-energized things again. And you could see us going forward even a little bit more. And I was down at field level at that time. And it's not something I usually do, but I'm going, guys, just get forward. Like, go forward and just put some shots in, put some attempts in, create something and get it going. And it's hard to really say what has to fall our way for us to start converting these draws into wins. And I will say though, over the past 2 matches, one thing that has really been an issue has been the lack of involvement of Chris Wehan. I mean, I think he had a total of 40 something touches on Wednesday night, which to me is nowhere near enough. And there were times where he was dropping all the way back to our defensive third to try to get involved in the play.
He doesn't struggle against San Antonio.
No.
I don't know this Weeham that you're talking about. But no. So the question has to be asked: Did because Nava came on in the 81st minute? Was that too late?
I think so.
Because you guys actually came back. What, the 55th minute was the goal by Sandoval?
Yeah.
After they scored their second goal in the 48th, so 26 minutes later, they brought him on late and they subbed out Bruce, which is a quality player. But you mentioned Nava brought something that Bruce didn't.
See, I don't think it's that he brought something that Daniel Bruce didn't. And I understand the sub of bringing him on for Brucey. Brucey has been giving 110%.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
Oh, yeah, no. But I think at that point, you make that sub there to get Brucey off because you've got another match coming up on Saturday. And Christian Nava, I would have loved to see him come on earlier, maybe for Bees earlier. Because again, 2 matches in a row, he's been struggling to get involved, and it's not just him; it's their team around him not getting him as involved. And so, honestly, we were up at the press box last night. I would have loved to see Christian Nava start, because if you watch him play in just that 10 minutes that he was on the pitch, he was confident, he was decisive, and the players around him were looking to get him the ball, and that's something that I think we need in our 11, at least at some point, either this season or at the very beginning of next season. We've got to get him out there and get him experience and get him involved because he's a dynamic player.
Any final thoughts on the Hartford match as far as, I think we both think it's kind of a missed opportunity on picking up, the 3 points because it was at home. I could see being on the road in Hartford, walking away with the 2-2 draw, that's a little bit more understanding, but being at home at the Lab, I think it was 8,500, I think is what I saw the attendance was.
I think it was 6,500, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Oh, 6,500, yeah.
Yeah. Still midweek, not bad.
It was good.
Turnout. Yeah.
Crowd was great. Like I said here, it came through the TV fairly well. New Mexico's reminds me of San Antonio on the last year of Darren Powell, where you look at the roster and you look at the results and there's something that's missing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not here to say what it is or what it isn't because I don't watch New Mexico as close as you do. But to me, it feels a whole lot like San Antonio in 2019, where the results didn't equal what the roster was. And, we still, later we found out maybe the locker room had some issues. The coach kind of didn't have total control. So, there's a lot of little things that kind of added up. But to me, this kind of feels a little bit like that because when you look at the roster that New Mexico puts out there, you would expect them to have a better record than what they have.
I don't think it's a locker room issue.
I'm not saying it's not. For San Antonio, kind of with some of the people that I've talked to that were in the locker room and stuff, it wasn't a huge locker room issue, but there was enough there to where, where I think it did have probably an impact bigger than what, now that you're, step back from it. where you can probably say, hey, yeah, it impacted a little bit more than what you thought.
Yeah, no, I get that. And obviously, like you said, you're not saying it is a locker room issue. And,
Right.
from the conversations we've had, that doesn't seem to be it. Troy was very big on Bees instantly when they came back. And one of the things that he mentioned, and we've talked about it before, is that Bees knows the system.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we recruited the wrong guys in the offseason. I don't think Brian Brown's end up being a good fit for us.
That was a disaster from the start.
Yeah, I mean, we were hopeful in the preseason, and it looked like there were opportunities for that to happen, but he never clicked. I mean, he was the last guy in the camp, never really clicked, and then after his exit, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, yeah, it just wasn't clicking. Okay, now we understand what the issue is, and so I think he really didn't fit into what we wanted, and so by going out and bringing back Bees and Silly, I think we never should let them go.
Right.
And I get why we did. I get that. They had the opportunities to go play for their hometown teams. And the club was willing to support them in that. And we also were, and I love Amando and I love Dev as a person, but Dev is not the player he was. We've lacked a forward presence a lot of times. And Amando can only do so much. He's not a hold-up play guy. Dev can do that. But even then, his touches have been suspect. And so a forward presence is what we needed. Ilya Illich has not fit what we needed either.
No, not at all.
The Serbian sniper, he's seen, I want to say, less than 1,000 minutes, probably less than 500 minutes for the team this year. I'd have to go and look that up to know for sure. But it's something's missed all season long. And I think it got better with our midseason signings. But
518 minutes, so you're not even close.
Yeah, 518 minutes. Yeah,
he's had 18 matches played, 4 starts.
See, and it's really hard to say yes, that's how much he's played, because I don't even remember seeing him that much. And it's just a weird thing, to see that. But in terms of the Hartford match, I guess my last thought on that would be, I feel sorry for the Hartford keeper. That injury he took in the 65th, that was rough. That was such a tough injury for him. I'm glad he was able to come back. And and I hate to say there was no. We see it a lot. The home team gets the referee advantage. There was no home field ref advantage last night. There were times where United would have gotten yellow cards for time wasting significantly faster than the 0 time wasting yellows we saw from Hartford. But I hope all the Hartford players are okay after their injuries last night. So,
well, we've both been on the both sides of that subject, so I will just keep my mouth quiet. So we are on a New Mexico podcast.
So, we won't censor you.
Yeah,
where's that button?
It's an art of the game. We'll just say, for that here.
Yeah.
So other matches from last night. Before we get into El Paso and San Antonio, the other big one, the Bold knocked off Tacoma 1-0, which was a result that you guys did not need, because that moves the Bold back up ahead of you guys, and I believe they still have games in hand as well.
Yeah, they've got one in hand still.
The Bold's the team that you don't know how they're doing it, but they're at 39 points. Yeah, you're at 38. New Mexico United's at 38, and RGV's at 37. So for that 4th spot here, it's a 3-legged race here. I think with that tie there and Austin's win, Austin actually controls their path to for the 4th slot compared to prior to that match. New Mexico, I believe, controlled their own path for that here. So the other match in the mountain, the reason why I asked to come on, because there was 3 matches on there, was the El Paso San Antonio match. It started out great for San Antonio, a goal in the 10th minute, a goal in the 27th minute. And then at half, we moved out Jasser Kamari. Axel Schoberg came in. 56th minute, we moved out Dylan for Cam Lindy, and then all of a sudden we stopped pressing, and El Paso did what El Paso does. When you take your foot off the pedal, they came back and scored the next three, and San Antonio got a goal in the 90+4 by Courtney Ford to walk away with a 3-3 tie. I think it's a match. It's one of those matches that both teams felt that they should have won. Both teams felt that they should have lost. So a 3-3 draw is probably a pretty fair result. Being up 2-0 and then taking the wheels off. And, one of my questions, if I was part of the press, Coach Marcina, mentioned that, in the second half, we stopped pressuring them. I'm like, so my question to him is, why did we stop pressuring him?
Right.
Because, when you don't pressure, Paso and they are a team that loves to control the ball. I think, we're ones where we'll sit back and counter, but against a quality team like New Mexico, against a quality team like El Paso, you can only take so much pressure before they're going to find some cracks in the defense. It's just going to happen. And, it was an entertaining game to watch, especially probably if you were neutral. Went back and forth. El Paso did win the Copa Tejas, I know, which, for those in New Mexico, basically the four USL Texas team have kind of a round robin. El Paso won that, basically they've claimed the slate this year. So it was an interesting match. With the tie, we do move into second place, tied with Colorado, but we have the tiebreaker over Colorado, so that puts us in the second position. El Paso, it hurts them a little bit on clinching the number one seed in the West, but I think after next week, I think they can clinch a playoff spot. And I think our for San Antonio, it's 9 points to clinch. So for San Antonio, it's a mixed bag. I'm assuming, if you talk with Seriously Loco, they'll probably say it's a mixed bag as well. But your thoughts as a neutral on that one?
Yeah, I actually went back and watched some of this match today, and looking at it, I mean, you guys came out really well. And one of my favorite sayings in football is that the most dangerous lead is 2-0. And I, honestly, I was out at the stadium last night. I didn't get to watch. I was following the scores up until about the 30-minute mark, and I said, okay, San Antonio's up 2-0. I mean, sounds like they're doing pretty well from what I'd seen on social media. And then the second half.
Yeah,
and I couldn't figure out what happened initially. And so, looking at it, what did you see that was different other than the press that just disappeared in the second half?
That was it. It just, Jasser came out for Doyle, which Doyle's tall, he's lanky, but he doesn't have that quick burst that Jasser has. The center back here. But to me, what really hurt is when he pulled out Dylan, who was the second forward up top that had a goal and assist, and brought in Cameron Lindy. That told you that they got more defensive. And as soon as they got more defensive, they just set back and try to absorb the pressure, and they paid for it, and kind of like what happened in the New Mexico match. There were some lucky bounces that, I think that also played a part into it. But once that momentum gets going, and you guys have experienced this, at the lab, once the home team and the crowd gets behind it, El Paso got an extra wind, and San Antonio, it seemed like, they were half a step slower from where they were, because what was it? Southwest University Park was, that first half was probably the quietest that I've ever heard it. But once they broke that goal, and you could just feel the momentum shift, and there was a goal before, or there was an attempt before Diego Luna's goal in the 85th minute. That would have been a goal of the week candidate. I forget who took it here. Rebellion number 25. He had a shot probably around the 78th minute that had Cardoni beat, but it bounced off the crossbar and bounced out. But the momentum, you've seen this at the lab. Once that momentum shifts, especially for an away team, it's hard to get it back. And I will say for SAFC, they showed a lot of grit to be able to come back and tie it up. And like I said here, thankfully for San Antonio social media, because it's still a little bit rough. When you're up 2-0 and then to go give up the next 3, it's and that's not the first time that's happened this year. It was there, and you could, to me, I was all blaming Marcin on this one, because you could tell, when he flipped the switch to go more conservative, it was just too soon. I could see maybe in the 70th, 80th minute, somewhere around there, but not even at the 60th minute, the 55th minute, that was just way too early to back up, to park the bus or change the tactics at that point.
Yeah, El Paso is one of those clubs where they just never seem to be out of any match that they're in. And their form at home especially has been outstanding over the past 2 seasons.
22 in a row. You guys are the last ones to beat them, last July-ish, I think?
I think so, yeah. Sounds about right.
And they've only lost the year before. They lost to us, but outside of that, I think July, August, somewhere around there, they've lost twice, once to you guys, once to us. And outside of that, they've been, they're on a 22-game what point streak at home, so best in North America right now. So
yeah, there's just something, I don't know if it's in the water down there or what, but and I hate to do this, I know Jerry might be watching, but El Paso is a talented club. They really are. And I think anytime you face them, especially at Southwest University, if you can pick up points down there, that's got to be a win in anyone's book. Now, to lose, we've done it. We've dropped points to them from a winning position. And you guys have as well. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's a tough environment. The fans are super into it. The players definitely feed off that. Mm-hmm. Off of that. And when you have guys like Diego Luna and Dylan Mares who can basically turn a game on its head, it's hard to account for all those different pieces.
So to me, and think if Solinag had signed with you guys as opposed to El Paso, because I think, and he didn't start this, but I think that's the type of player that New Mexico needed. And I've talked to you about this before, is for New Mexico, they like El Paso the last couple of years, the missing piece was the attacking portion, because the defense they had, and I think that's the case with New Mexico, is they need to find a Solinag or get lucky with Diego Luna coming in and being a great young player. And it'll be interesting to see if he comes back next year for that here, or if he goes over to Europe as well. I think we're already predicting Jose Gallegos to be going over to Europe. So it's awesome to see for here, and I know with the New Mexico Academy they're starting to build that up. It'll be interesting to see if you can hit on a young player like they have and like we have with Jose Gallegos to kind of give that extra spark that you need.
How would you rate Matt Cardoni on the season? I know he's always been a pretty solid keeper. Looking at the replays from last night, it looked like he got a hand to at least the first 2. And just, like you said, unlucky bounces. Just looking at his performance last night and across the season, how would you rate him this year?
He is probably an above average goalkeeper for USL, but he's not elite, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So he'll keep you in games, but in my opinion, he's not a goalkeeper that will win you games. Like Tyler Derrick for RGV early in the year, has done that, and Kettler with with El Paso's, carried them a couple of times. I think you had a goalkeeper last year, went to New York.
Cody Mizell. Yeah.
Cody Mizell, that elite level, Matt's good. And like I said, here he's local kid, San Antonio, from high school to college, to played with the, SA Scorpions back in the NASL, the championship year. Been with them, I think, the last original, San Antonio FC player. But, it's, and I don't mean this as a disrespect, but if you look at San Antonio's roster on how it's built, it's got MLS experience everywhere with the exception of goalkeeper. And like I said here, Matt's good, and I understand why he's there, but is he an elite goalkeeper that will win a game for you? He won't cost you a game, but he won't, will he win it for you is the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. And I think by comparison, you mentioned Cody Mizell, and I honestly think objectively Alex Tambakis is better. Just in his decision making, his distribution, I think he's objectively better. Now, there have been moments this year that, and we've seen it, you've seen it in both of our teams' matches where there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah,
there's just nothing you can do about it. And we trying to explain his decision making at times because people don't understand. Like I've seen people say, they want him out. They want, Philip Beigel in there. And I love Phil. Phil's a great guy. He's talented. His one appearance this year, he allowed 3 goals, and you look at what Alex has done. You look at what Cardone has done. Mm-hmm. And, it's, you've got guys who can put in quality appearances and give your team a chance to win. And we got Emma over in the chat. Amen. Temblakis is what I call him. He's the man. Yeah, no, Alex has definitely kept us in a few games this year. And, Cardone has done the same for you guys, which I think is, is fantastic. And, I have to give him a lot of credit. But when you face teams like Phoenix, like San Antonio, like Colorado Springs this year, with the attacking talent that these clubs have, Lou City for us, and it's hard to take care of all those. And,
mm-hmm.
and obviously random stuff is going to happen. Things happen, deflections. There's nothing that you can do about that. But, if you have an above average keeper USL level, you're going to have a chance to win the majority of your matches.
Correct. And he does, to me, he doesn't cost you games. And that's, it's one of those things to where, Cardone's tied for third in saves at 82. Mm-hmm. Number one is Alex Rando with the Lights at 102, and Caldwell, who you guys faced last night for Hartford, is second at 97. So it's not healthy that you're facing that many shots, but Connor Sparrow and him's tied at at 82, at 82 saves. Tambakis is at 71 right there. Now when you go to clean sheets, Tambakis has 7. Logan Kettler has 7. Cardone's got 6, so they're all there. Tampa Bay, leads the league, with the Evan Lauro at 13 clean sheets, but that's because they've got that total package. And then second, surprisingly, is Elliot Pantico from the Bold, and it's because it's the type of system they run. But he's a MLS quality goalkeeper, on loan from Nashville, and I think he's a huge reason on why the Bold are in the position that they are, is because, number one, he doesn't make mistakes. Number two, the defense in front of him, and he sets them up in a very good position.
Yeah, that's something that I think we've seen more of this season. Is you've seen from the premier clubs, from San Antonio, Phoenix, Charlotte, they have a good defensive core. Mm-hmm. Whatever system they run, we obviously run 3 at the back. Other clubs run 4. Like we saw Austin run 5 at the back.
Yeah.
And while I'm not a fan of parking the bus by any stretch of the imagination, if it's working, why go against it? Why change what works? And you see more keepers coming in now. Panico coming in, MLS loan, guys who have experience and can take charge of the backfield and really like direct where things go. And so I'd have to go back and look. I don't know what the record is for clean sheets in a season, but there have been a lot this year. And it's a lot of fun to watch, especially if you love low scoring football.
As long as it's quality, where there are quality chances. But if it's, 0-0 games where neither team's able, like the Real Monarchs Red Bulls 2 game where it was just two poor teams, I was like, I wouldn't wish that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a similar match, went against Austin earlier in the season. They played they played 5-4-1 or some nonsense, and they sat 10 people behind the ball the entire match, and it worked, but it's not fun. It's not entertaining, but that's football.
So looking forward. So tomorrow, Bobby Wood and Real Monarchs face Colorado Springs. Thoughts on Bobby Wood playing USL Championship?
Yeah, I saw the tweet from Nicholas Murray earlier. That's a sneaky little move there by RSL, putting Bobby Wood down with the Monarchs.
Yeah, nobody covered it until hey, he's going to be in here. And then, I don't know if you saw the promo by the Monarchs, but he's listed in the picture. So
interesting.
And the reason why he's down is he got injured. It's a rehabilitation start, to get him some minutes. And, as a SAFC fan battling Colorado, yay. I don't know if it'll make much of a difference because the Monarchs are a very poor team right now.
Yeah.
So you don't know. And I'm assuming he's going to be 45 minutes, 60 minutes, something along those lines. So, I doubt he plays the full game, but it's still interesting, especially, Bobby Wood, U.S. men's national team player and his rich history. So,
yeah, that was definitely an interesting move. And I think I don't want to say that Monarchs are going to win that match, but Bobby Wood is a guy that can come on, like you said, probably he's not going to play a full match coming off an injury. He's likely, probably 30 to 60 minutes, somewhere in there. I could see him coming on the 60th and just, seeing out the match and going from there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Monarchs are poor at the back. You've got Colorado Springs, obviously Barry, you've got Beckford. So they're going to be flying. I know, obviously you said you're still fighting with them for second place. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a fun watch. I might actually, sit down and watch that one tomorrow night just to see, does Bobby Wood have an impact and what's Colorado going to do?
It'll be you still got a weak defense, but I will say the Real Monarchs goalkeepers, even though they're 15, 16 years old, very impressive for the here. But you guys is it a win and stay in game on Saturday, New Mexico versus RGV?
I think so. I think I'm trying. So looking at our schedule. Yeah, a win on Saturday against RGV. That's definitely going to keep us in contention. And I think, when we talked, you mentioned earlier, is it a must win? I predicted ahead of last night's match that we needed 12 points from our final, 6 matches, which is probably a big ask. But because I thought we were going to get 7 from this week alone. From these two and San Diego, I thought if we got 7 points from those 3 matches, that we'd be in good shape. And then, but yeah, a 6-point swing against RGV, that's gonna be massive. It really is. And I know, the schedules going forward for the rest of the season for the rest of the teams in the Mountain Division. There's some interesting matchups along the way that could change. Really, I mean, you could also even say 3 through 6, depending on how the results play out.
Yeah, the Bold have an outside shot to still be able to reach number 2. Mm-hmm. I really think, though, just on who San Antonio plays with who Colorado Springs plays. Let me see here. Where's Colorado's many switchbacks? So switchbacks play Monarchs, El Paso, RGV, Monarchs, San Antonio. So to me, that second, third spot is going to come down to that last game. Here in San Antonio, I think that's going to be the decider. I know they play the Monarchs twice. Both of them are away, so that's the one advantage. They do play El Paso away. So what's kind of funny is San Antonio plays 4 out of the next 5 at home. The switchbacks play 4 out of their last 5 at away. 2 of them are against the Monarchs, which we'll admit aren't very good, but they do play El Paso. For whatever odd reason, El Paso home games are only on Wednesdays for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
they
that's
don't
strange.
have any more Saturday games, which is an odd thing. So, and of course, midweek games, as much as we like to say, they don't draw the big crowds. It's especially school work and all that stuff. It doesn't have it, and then so I think for New Mexico, because next time you guys do play RGV again, but that time's away at HEB Park, which RGV is a good team. I think they've got talent. Some of the talent they brought in, recently. I think they got a guy that's up for goal of the week off of a scissor kick or something like that. To help get the win. So to me, that RGV match is whoever wins puts themselves in a lot better position. I will say for New Mexico, your guys' schedule down the stretch is just a killer the next 4. RGV twice at San Diego, home against San Antonio, where you guys typically handle us very well. That's, when we were looking at our stretch, I said El Paso was a loss. I said New Mexico is a loss away. Just that's what, if you walk away at the point, you're feeling good now. We walked away at the point. I still don't feel well just on how the game went, but I woke up and I was like, hey, it's a point, which if you'd have said, hey, going in, you're walking away with a point coming out of El Paso, you take that.
Yeah.
Same thing with their, to me, I think you're going to find out a lot about this team though, about how much fight that they have. And I think, we kind of touched on this earlier, how much the coach has, I guess you can say, how much the locker room has belief in the coach. Because these next, 5 games for New Mexico, it's put up or shut up time.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I can't disagree with that. And, we do have 3 of the final 5 at home, which I think is going to benefit us, but, we have to stay in form. That's the thing. We can't back off. We have to maintain it. We have to stay aggressive. And I think one thing that we really got away from after the first 2 seasons was our press. And our press, we did so good that first season with that high press, and it affected other teams. And we don't do that as much. I think a lot of it has to do with, not having Kevon and things like that. But ultimately, we have to convert our chances. We can't make mental mistakes, particularly in the midfield and in the defensive third, which unfortunately is where a lot of our mistakes have been happening. If we do that, I think we have a very good chance at sealing that 4th spot, especially if we pick up 2 wins against RGV. If we can do that, I think 6 points there. I could see another 3 points somewhere in there. And I think that does it. And one of the things that I will say that I think does fall in both the favor of United and RGV is Austin Bold's final 6 matches.
Yes.
I mean, this is something that we were looking at it the other night, and they got 4 of 6 away. So of their remaining 6 matches, they have OKC at home and Charlotte at home to close out the season. And then in the middle of that, they have 4 matches away: Birmingham, Monarchs, El Paso, San Antonio. And that's just their final 6 is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, their last 3 at El Paso, at San Antonio, which they did beat. To be fair, they did beat San Antonio I want to say July 3rd because the fireworks got canceled. Well, didn't get canceled, but wasn't as a happy fireworks show because we did lose to the Bold 1-0. And then that home match against Charlotte, which it'll be interesting because Charlotte's gonna have everything kind of locked up. So I think they're kind of stuck into that 4 seed, in the Atlantic. But yeah, they got a huge one against the Energy, and I don't think that they have the depth. Now, the playing style that they have is so defensive, and they do have quality coaches, and they got a hell of a goalkeeper that we talked about. But I keep saying the Bold are gonna come back down to earth. But if you look at their form, going all the way back to mid-August, 4 ties, 4 wins, and 2 losses out of their last 10, I don't know if we can match that. And I know New Mexico can't.
No, we haven't.
I hate saying that. I don't think you guys have. I don't think you guys have 4 wins right in the last 10.
No, we did. We won 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We won 4 or 5 here coming into the Loudon match, or not Loudon, Hartford.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys. I think you have 1 more loss because of Phoenix.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it's going to be an interesting stretch run for that here. For both teams, for all the teams in the Mountain, because I know everybody's said that El Paso's got this in the bag, but if you look at their final stretch, they still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 matches left. They're basically playing 2 games a week, and they play at Tulsa this weekend. Now Rivas, they do get lucky because Rivas actually just finished playing for El Salvador, and they did upset Panama, I guess you could say, for that here. Which, if you're CONCACAF qualifying, that's a unexpected result. Home against the Switchbacks, at LA Galaxy 2, home against Austin, home against the Energy, and away at RGV. So not tough, but that's a lot of travel. That's a lot of minutes to be able to see if they can be able to actually, put the division away. And if their recent form, they're kind of like what we were at the start of the season, but they're 2, 4, 5 draws, 2 wins, as far as for their last 7. So they're not losing, but they're not getting those wins like they were earlier in the year.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that even with a draw in their next match, they will clinch a playoff spot.
They'll make the playoffs, but whether they can keep that number 1 slot, if Tulsa or San Antonio or both could go on a run.
And every single one of those matches they have left is against teams either in a playoff spot or still in contention for a playoff spot. So I don't see any of those teams resting against El Paso as long as they're in contention.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Like I said here, San Antonio, our schedule I think actually kind of lightens up a little bit, and I'm sure I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for that. But we're home against Memphis, home against Tulsa, which I think we should be able to do. We go on the road to New Mexico, and then home against Austin, home against the Switchbacks. So being at home, like I said here, if San Antonio can take care of business, like I said here, you'd like to think that they could put some wins on the board, especially against Memphis and Tulsa. I think they are quality clubs. I do think that the New Mexico match away, I think that's the 1 loss. I think if we can walk away with a tie, that's that would be a success, and it's going to depend on what you guys are playing for, I think. But that Austin match, and to me, it comes down to that Switchbacks match, which I think will be a playoff match to see who hosts it in that first round for that 2nd seed.
Yeah, I know Jacob has said that our season is going to come down to the Monarchs match last week. I'm like, I really don't want it to, but it just might, which is unfortunate. We went through that in 2019 down to the last night. And it's like, okay, we were relying on other results. And
yes, you relied on San Antonio.
Yep, we relied on San Antonio that night. And
who was up 2-0 and up a man, and Yeah, we tied.
Yeah, we were in the press box at night, and we had United in front of us. We had the San Antonio match on one side, we had another match on another screen, and so we were going back and forth and trying to figure out the playoff implications and what was going to happen. And as much fun as it is from from a fan perspective, you clinching it at the last minute, you don't want to. And this is a conversation I had with Jerry the other night when we were doing the Lou City watch along, and I was like, I would much rather be in a position where we were comfortably in.
Yes.
Where we had some points difference between us and whoever was behind us. I wish we had that, but we're not. And we haven't been consistent enough all year long, and unfortunately that's just been the MO of this team.
Yeah, to me, if New Mexico doesn't make it, and I know I told you this here, so far you got 6 out of 21 out of conference points, and of course your last one's away at the Loyal. So now I don't think the Loyal are playing better, but they're fighting for that second seed in the Pacific, but that'll be a tough one there. But if New Mexico does not make the playoffs, it comes down to that outer conference there where they're 5 points behind the Monarchs, which that you add those 5 points to it, and you guys are probably comfortably in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, it's something that we'll take a look at throughout the off season, and look back. Okay, well, where do we already know where we failed, but where did we go wrong in our predictions? Where did we fail tactically on the field? It's a lot to look at, a lot to talk about. And I know some folks here in the community want Troy out at the end of the season if we don't make the playoffs. And I don't see it happening, but you never know. You never know. And that's a conversation that I want to have with Peter at some point. What is he said the ultimate goal is to win a championship, win multiple championships. But I want to find what's the barometer for success year over year.
And I will say, like 2019, I think if 2018 there was the whispers of, hey, Darren Powell, should he stay or should he go? They kept him. They came back saying, hey, things will be much different, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be the question, because you guys had that great run in the Open Cup the first year, and you guys did qualify for the playoffs, right? Because that's when you guys got in over San Antonio in 2018 or 2019? 2019. Last year, I throw away last year just because you guys were on the road. Like I said here, you guys had a good season, especially being all on the road. But for this year, and it's no secret, it comes down to the offensive side of the ball, and who's the one that's in charge of bringing in the players? Is it
Troy?
Is it Troy? I think you guys hired somebody, right, to be able to help.
Yeah, we recently hired 2 folks. We hired a guy. His name is Itamar Keenan. Mm-hmm. He is a former scout now to be head of our, international scouting. They help bring that in. And then we also brought in Coach Heather Dyke from UNM to be on the technical side of things. So I think she's going to help scout players as well as providing technical support to the players that we already have. So.
And I will say this, if November comes and you guys can get that stadium, that's going to give you guys a huge boost as well. So now the question is how long it takes to get the stadium. That's a whole separate discussion. But to me, if New Mexico, assuming, whether you guys make the playoffs or don't make the playoffs, if you guys can get that stadium passed, like I said here, to me, that will be a win on this season, especially, I'm assuming from, Peter's level saying, hey, the results may not have been exactly what we want on the pitch, but off the pitch and the New Mexico community, has grown. We're going to be able to expand and in the brief discussion that I had with Peter at Toyota Field, he made mention that, one way or another, they will be getting a stadium, for that here. His preferred path is to go down, this avenue here, but which I was excited to hear. Like I said here, I have nothing but love for Peter, and wish we had more owners in the league that were as open and as friend accessible, as New Mexico's owner is compared to San Antonio's. So, but that's a different story.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing how different ownership groups act, and like you said, it's going to come down to the success on the pitch. You may not, and that's something we've tried to stress is we know we're not going to win them all. We would love to win them all. No one's going to go 32-0-0. Not going to happen. And you're absolutely right. The stadium bond passing in November would be an absolute win for the club and for the community. And where we go from there, I don't know. I mean, I know that they've come out and said construction would likely start in 2022. Mm-hmm. So if it does pass, and which I think is a pretty quick turnaround to get that going, and then
yes,
I could see if that happens, I could see us opening 2023 in a stadium. Maybe 2024. I think it would just depend, but
yeah, it depends because Albuquerque's weather's pretty good in the wintertime, right? You guys don't.
Yeah, here in
the
city,
like Colorado, and where you get the hard freezes and stuff like that.
Yeah, we get freezes, but it really doesn't snow too much.
Hard freeze,
yeah, it's not like that. So there's gonna be a lot of interesting things, and the stadium conversation is ongoing, and so yeah, we're just we're trying to put out the word as best we can, and hopefully that passes, and we'll see what happens. As far as Troy out, I don't know, man. I agree with you. Throw away 2020. I think everyone needs to throw away 2020.
Yeah, it's we take it because hey, we won our division.
Yeah,
but then we lost in the playoffs, so. There was that. So we lost to you guys, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
We hands. Yeah.
We hands on. How about that?
Dude plays well against San Antonio. That's all I'm going to say. He's a star. Between him and Diego Luna, I don't know who's had more success against San Antonio.
So looking at this weekend, we did kind of talk about them a little bit. You guys have Memphis, and we've got RGV. What's your prediction for this weekend against Memphis?
I'm going to go conservative. I'm going to say 2-1 because San Antonio gives up a goal. I think it's kind of like you guys. We give up a goal. It's going to happen. You just hope it doesn't happen, at the wrong time. But yeah, I think 2-1. It's been a while since the boys have been home. And I think looking at Memphis, looking at their tack, it's really one guy. Former San Antonio FC and former RGV. What's his name here? He's got an impressive record here. Kyle Murphy, okay. 17 goals on the year, 1 assist. Kadeem Dakers, I don't know if he got called up to the Jamaican team, and I don't remember seeing him, but he's got 6 assists. So if they can kind of shut them two down, and I think with San Antonio's defense, they're able to take forwards out. They'll give up the leaky goal, for there here. But I just think for San Antonio, they're in good form. I know the result wasn't what they wanted. They felt they dropped the 2 points, which is what you want to hear. So I think it'll be interesting. Memphis also played on Wednesday, so it's not a matter of one team having more rest than the other. Memphis played at home, has to travel to San Antonio. It's a Sunday game at 7:30 of all odd times, but I think we'll do. And I think, I hate to say this, but I think New Mexico RGV 1-1 draw. I think if you're a betting person, I think you'd probably pick the draw between the two teams. I don't have confidence in either one. If I was to pick a winner, it would be New Mexico just because they're at home.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. It really is. I know we beat them 2-0 last time, but one of those goals did come in like the 94th minute from Crispy Hand, of course. But we played RGV well this year, where our home form is definitely better than being on the road. I'm glad this match is at home. I could easily honestly, I could see 2-1, 2-0 for us, but I think it's going to be 1-0, and it's going to be a clincher, and no one's going to enjoy it until that final whistle blows. But I do think we get the 3 points. It's homecoming night. We've got brand new kits out.
Nice looking kits.
Yes, they are. They're fantastic looking. I just wish they had one that was like the red and green mix, which I think would be fantastic. But yeah, so I think we get the 3 points on Saturday against RGV, get back on track. And as far as you guys go, I can see 2-0. You guys have a solid defense. You got a solid midfield, and you guys, you know how to play on the counter if you need to. And I think the San Antonio results against us are kind of misleading because you guys are a tremendously talented team. And I definitely see you guys picking up, 3 points, 2-0 over Memphis on Saturday.
Yeah, it's super crazy how, like, we played RGV, third week, following week, or skip a week, we played, so 16th, 29th, and then June 19th. So we played 3 times in a month. You actually play RGV 3 times in a month?
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy. So,
yeah, that was the one like unbalanced thing on our schedule. It was really weird that we didn't
you
play
guys
RGV.
had the first game where they did beat you. That was an RGV, right? Yes,
yeah,
that was an RGV. So they beat you the first game of the year, and then you guys came back at home. You guys at home are just a different animal.
Yeah,
but it's just that consistency to where can't if you were to bet $100. How much of that $100 are you betting on New Mexico to win? That's the question.
yeah, one of our local beat writers actually, he found betting odds for the last United match against RGV, and he doesn't really cover the club. He has a few times. It doesn't really know a whole lot about soccer, and people were kind of surprised that there were USL betting odds. And I said, I chimed in and said, if it was me, because the under was 2.5 goals. Or the over-under was 2.5. And then obviously, United win, RGV win, and draw. I said, if I was betting this, I'd take the under and New Mexico United to win. And I wonder how much I couldn't figure out how much I would have won on either of those. But I was like, it's one of those things, like it's going to be tough. RGV is a good team. And I know that they've been really down, but they have the ability to go out and win any given night.
Let me see here. Yeah, they don't have the USL odds for you guys, but they did last night. They did have you guys favored, by 1.5 goals, which I hate to say it. I took, I've been known to place a couple of dollars here and there. I did place a couple of dollars on Hartford to cover that goal and a half. Just you guys would win, but I don't think you'd win by 2 goals over Hartford.
I probably would have taken that bet too.
I was like, if it's a half a goal, I would have jumped on it. But
yeah,
saying, hey, they're going to win, but a goal and a half, yeah, I lost my parlay because Sacramento lost to Oakland. I was like, damn it.
Well, all right. Do you got any closing thoughts on tonight?
CONCACAF qualifying. Did you catch the U.S. win?
I saw parts of it. In the middle of all of that, I was taking my kids to and from Awana and dinner and all that kind of stuff. So didn't catch all of it, but great win by the U.S.
All of it, but it was 2-0. Mexico tied Canada, so that's a good result.
Did they really?
1-1 for that here, and there was another pause in gameplay, we'll just say, for a certain chant for that here. So CONCACAF, let me see if I can get to the...
It's so hard to get the CONCACAF standings and stuff. It's really annoying.
I go to FOTMA, but they have all of them.
FOTMA, okay. Well, El Salvador picked up a win. How about that?
Yeah, they beat Panama, which is who the U.S. plays on Sunday.
Okay.
So technically, U.S. is leading the group right now with 8 points. Mexico's second at 8 points. Canada's in third with 6. Panama's 5 points. El Salvador 5 points, and Costa Rica, Honduras, and Jamaica is in last here. So remember the start from the U.S. where everybody was all, "Oh my gosh, the last World Cup cycle's repeating." I have to give it to they're playing some good ball, and this is without Reyna and Pulisic. So they're the youngest team, 2 18-year-olds.
I think so. Yeah. I was concerned about this window here of the qualifying, that if we didn't perform well, then going into the next round of qualifiers, starting off against Mexico, like that's tough, and then obviously I think we got Mexico again early next year too. I'm like, you don't want to play Mexico twice needing to get in. Like you want to have your spot secured. Now, I know we've played well against Mexico in recent matches, but, if Tata can get that team turned around, and it looks like he kind of has a little bit, that I don't want to be playing them with a spot on the line.
It'll be interesting, like I said here, for that here. But to me, that was my kind of final thought. Like I said here, I took AJ to his soccer practice and, used the data plan a little bit and watched some of the game till they got up 2-0, and then and then came home and saw the Mexico Canada, watched the end of that, and it's if you'd have talked about the start of the qualifying, would you have thought USA would have been tied with Mexico after 4 matches? I don't think you'd find many people that would have agreed with you. So.
No, and I think that's a lack of faith in Berhalter. So more, I think that's what it is more than anything.
Well, yeah, but there's reason for that.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. But the lack of faith is understandable, but seeing the guys play, and I think this past 6 to 8 months of men's national team play has been head and shoulders better than where they were the last 2 qualifying cycles.
Oh, this team has so much more depth and quality that it's not even comparable, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that they're the best team, because I think with this team here, what's crazy to think is, the 2026 Olympic, or not Olympic, but the 2026 World Cup here, that's when this team should be in its peak, for that here. So if you can continue to build on that, and this team continues to gel with Pepe at 18, you add 2026, 5 years, that'd put him 23.
Yeah.
This team could be special. Now there's a lot of things that can happen, don't get me wrong, but I think this team has the ability to, number one, make it to the World Cup. Number two, I think this team, you can get, depending on what you're drawn in, can get to the knockout stage. But I think it's setting up for that 2026 World Cup here in the States, where you could see the United States possibly being able to make a deep run. And usually as a host, you get kind of a soft group typically. It's not saying it's like the Knicks drafting Patrick Ewing, but let's put it this way: FIFA wants the U.S. to go as far as they can here stateside. We'll just leave it at that.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, like I'm more invested in the men's national team this qualifying cycle than I have in probably the past decade.
Well, they're a fun group.
They're a lot of fun. We've got a lot of talent spread all across the globe now, and I think there's some guys on there that should be playing abroad that aren't right now. But
any final thoughts from you?
Final thoughts. I mean, get out, watch some soccer this weekend, enjoy the weather while it's still somewhat warm, and we'll get ready for the end of the season.
It's always warm.
All right, well, Harry, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you being here, talking some San Antonio and the Mexico United, and And I've told you before, you're always welcome on the show. Anytime you want to pop on, just let me know. And
hopefully
we'll
I filled in okay for Jacob or Earl.
Oh yeah,
probably somewhere in the mixture mixture there. I'm not sure who your favorite or not favorite is, but that's a subject for for another podcast here. But it was a pleasure. Like I said, here, love to do these here, and hopefully it's something I'll be able to do in the future again.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'd love to have you on. And I think who the favorite is depends on who's in the chat that night. If it's Jerry, I think Jerry likes Earl a little bit more, but you never know. But anyway, thank you again so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who popped in the chat. Emma, thank you for stopping by, throwing in the comments there. Appreciate you being here. As always, guys, you can follow us on social media at Somos Moss or at Somos Moss Pod. Harry is, of course, at Ram and Call over on Twitter and on Reddit. And then, as far as us, we'll be back again on Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and Somos Unidos.